Oh, definitely. Now, how much of this, because, I've only lived in Alabama about a year and a couple of months, and, we are strong about our communities.
Mm-hmm.
Are people aware of how much outside influence is wrapped up in some of this protest? Do they care?
I don't. I think no to both of that, and to add to it, and you'll remember this from last year. The Blue Dot lady, she's from
Yeah.
Birmingham,
Yeah,
and she was a
exactly.
huge advocate for protesting. So I don't think they realize how much external influence there is. More importantly, and Rebecca can really talk to this, I don't think they realize how much opposition is within the state. They think they're in a
Wow.
red state, it's safe, there's nothing to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not true. There's a whole lot more within the state that they're just completely oblivious to. And Rebecca, I think, really sees that more on display throughout the year with all the drag stuff than we do here in Huntsville. We see it some, but it's a little bit more isolated. Whereas
Yeah.
I think Rebecca's is more, I mean, it's almost a year-round activity down there with these drag shows.
Yeah, I mean, Prattville seems to be ground zero up in this area where they're
Oh, yeah.
pushing this. But you're right. It's not. Don't hear about it in the muscle show. And as far as I'm concerned, unless I want to be involved in that stuff, I shouldn't hear about it.
Right.
My kids shouldn't. I don't have children, but children should not be involved in that type of stuff.
Right.
But it seems like, in Prattville, they've bent the knee, and it seems like in Fairhope, they've also kind of bent the knee on that. What do you say to that, Rebecca?
Well, I think, when I was growing up and when we were younger, I mean, I grew up on the West Coast and I was around, gay people all the time. I worked in advertising. I worked with gay people. And I mean, obviously, I'm a Christian. I live my life a certain way, but I've never been a judgmental person. And I've always been kind and loving to everybody. And I would help anyone that needed it. So I think what happened, like Emily said, when COVID happened, it really polarized. It really took people that were, the Democrats and the Republicans, people I had lived on the same street for 16 years. I never knew any of their politics. And we were a close knit street. And then all of a sudden you would see someone with the mask and say, oh my gosh, okay, so you're a Democrat. And then someone who didn't have a mask, you're a Republican. And so I think COVID really, really divided. And then this whole boldness came out where it was like, I'm going to call you a murderer because you're not wearing a mask and you could kill somebody. And then, I'm going to call you this because you have one on, or you're getting the COVID shot or whatever it was. And so at that point, when people were so emboldened to actually make a judgment about somebody else based on something that was just so superficial, I think the LGBTQ community got very bold, and then they started calling people who said, wait a second, I don't care what you do, but you just need to leave the children out of it. If you want to do that and you want to do that in an adult space, fine, but don't bring it into my schools. Yeah. Don't bring it into my community where I don't have a choice. Like in Fairhope, they have a gay pride festival down at the pier every year. And now it's grown to, it's from the pier, now it's to the bluff. And it's all marketed to children. And so if I want to go down to the pier, and that's a publicly funded, tax-paying funded, that's the area. So if I want to go down there with my little boy and play football, they're handing out condoms and KY jelly. They've got AIDS tents erected, STD tents. They've got bags. The Human Rights Campaign is down there with bags that say, trans joy on it, little keychains. This is like, wait a second. I don't want to come into your space. I'm not interested. Don't come into mine with my child. Now I have to explain what all that is to him. And so this is an agenda. This is grooming and a marketing agenda to our children. And it's so well funded and organized that like Emily said, or like you said, when we have events where we're just reading a wholesome book, you know, just a normal book about being brave, or having courage, or whatever it is, somehow that's a threat to them. And it's so interesting because that's really what they talk about, is how brave they are and how much courage they have. And so I'm just thinking to myself, why don't you come and sit and let your little one listen to the story?
Mm.
You know, if that's what we're dealing with, there's no critical thinking anymore. You know, we've taken that out of the public schools. Our kids just do what they're told. And it's really unfortunate, because if we could all sit down and really get to the crux of what we're saying the same things, you know, just for different purposes. But it's all about respect. And so don't bring your agenda into my publicly funded spaces, and I won't bring mine into yours. And so I think there's just a fine line that's crossed where these people are emboldened and they have no boundaries. And if you don't agree with them, then you are automatically considered a hateful, you know, I was accused of, at a city council meeting, showing up with my pitchfork. So I'm basically been called the devil. So, you know, and I'm a very nice person. Like I said, I would help anybody. So it's the hateful agenda works to their advantage, because when people like Emily and I are holding just purely innocent community events where everybody's welcome, they can use that as a reason to promote hate in our community. So really, they're promoting hate, but it's not because of Emily and I, it's because that's what they need to then hook people in to what they're saying, to make people feel like they're fighting for some cause, as if it's like the civil rights movement or something. That's how these people are behaving. And so, you know, we need our communities to stand together. This is not just about reading good books. This is about what are our community standards. And the higher our community standards are, the less likely it is for this kind of stuff to get in. So we need to raise our community standards. We need our community members to show up and show our elected officials that we want events like this. We want wholesome, family-centered events that don't have to do with sexuality, because these children are not old enough to even know what that is. It's beyond their comprehension. It causes anxiety. It causes depression. It causes mental health issues. We need to allow these children to be little. We need to allow them to have an imagination and to play and to be free of what all of the pressures that adults have. And so community members, show up, participate, and show our elected officials that this is the kind of community that we want. Our community standards need to be high. And that's why I want to do this Brave Books event, because I want our community standards to be raised. And I think it's important.